What's up everybody, and welcome to the channel. In today's video, we're going to take a look at the all-new 2024 Ford Ranger to the 2024 Nissan Frontier. So underneath the hood of the all-new Ford Ranger, the standard engine is a 2.3-liter inline 4-cylinder EcoBoost motor. This has 270 horsepower with 310 pound-feet of torque. Max towing capacity is also 7,500 pounds. This truck has a 10-speed automatic transmission. 4-wheel drive is available. It also runs on an 18-gallon fuel tank, and ground clearance is about 9.3 inches. Now it's also worth mentioning you can get a 2.7-liter EcoBoost V6 with 315 horsepower and 400 pound-feet of torque. Or if you opt for the Ford Ranger Raptor, you can get a 3-liter twin-turbo V6 with 405 horsepower and 430 pound-feet of torque. Underneath the hood of the 2024 Nissan Frontier, there's only going to be one engine available, which is the 3.8-liter naturally aspirated 6-cylinder motor. This pushes 310 horsepower with 281 pound-feet of torque. Max towing capacity is 6,600 pounds. Of course, different trim levels like this one are going to be a little bit lower. This has a 9-speed automatic transmission, 4-wheel drive is available. It also runs on a 21-gallon fuel tank, and it has 9.3 inches of ground clearance. As far as some capacities go, the Ford Ranger is about 4,400 pounds, payload capacity is 1,700 pounds, the bed length is 59.6 inches, the bed height is 20.8 inches, and then the width between these fender liners is going to be 48.2 inches. This truck is also going to have a tape measure on the back. You can install C-clamps and use this as a workbench. There's also going to be power outlets on the far side. And overall, not a bad bed for this truck. The Frontier weighs in around 4,700 pounds, has 1,600 pound payload capacity. And then taking a look at the bed, the length is 58.9 inches. The wheel well width is 44.4 inches. And then the height is 19.4 inches. You are going to see these aluminum rails all throughout it, which is a great touch for extra cargo. There's also tie-down hooks on each of the 4 corners, spray and bed liner, and then the tailgate has a plastic liner. Doesn't weigh all too much, can easily close it. And then taking a look at the exterior styling with the all-new 2024 Ford Ranger. Of course, looks are subjective. This has a really good style to it. It looks like a Ford truck for sure. You got the nice C shape on the LED headlights. Very nice grille, all integrated. I love how it flows towards those headlights. Nice mesh with your Ford badge, some contrast, a large opening for that intercooler down below. You can see LED fog lights, functional opening for a little bit better aerodynamics. Nice sharp lines along the hood, rugged all-terrain tires, your XLT badge, and then you can just see a nice side profile. It looks similar to the old Ranger, however, it definitely looks a little bit more sporty, much more up to date. Great proportions with the full crew cab. LED taillights. You do see halogen bulbs though for the turn signal and reverse light. Ranger is stamped into it. Parking sensors. Of course, there are several different options and trim levels. You can get a Lariat, the Raptor, the Sport trim, 4-wheel drive, and then a power sliding rear glass. Moving on to the exterior design with the 2024 Nissan Frontier. Certainly is a good looking truck, especially in this particular specification. There are LEDs for the headlights, nice large opening for the grille, forward facing camera on this particular truck. Then you can see an aluminum skid plate down below. We have tow hooks. Of course, this is the most rugged available trim level. Side profile, once again, nice looking truck with sharp body lines. Nothing all too crazy looking, however, it does look like a modern truck. Good proportions. Of course, looks are purely subjective. I don't think you can argue with any of the trucks in this segment. They all have a really good design. LED taillights. Like everything else, the name Frontier is stamped into the tailgate. Seems like a common idea for all these trucks, but nonetheless, certainly a good looking vehicle. Now keep in mind this particular truck is $39,000 and it is a rear-wheel drive XLT, so not quite a top-of-the-line truck, more of the middle of the road. You're going to see on the door panel you have a lot of black plastic, this vinyl material with some padding for your armrests, all of those controls. We do have a turnkey ignition. There are power controls, however, on the side of the seats. All the cloth, cool fabric design throughout it. So good look overall. You can see the black leather on the steering wheel. We have headlight controls down below. This could be storage, however, it is absolutely tiny, so don't know if that's just more design or storage. But if we hop inside and go ahead and fire up the 2.3 liter, you can see the two screens turning on. Closing the door. So center screen for the Ford Ranger, this vertical design that you've seen on a lot of other new Fords. And a look at the dashboard. This does look very nice. It's not just a tablet stuck on, so it is integrated very well, which is a big plus. You can see the full screen navigation system. There are climate controls in the screen. However, you do have all these physical controls, which are actually really easy to use. So I do like that aspect. Fan speed as well. Of course, everything pops up. And then on here, you have your home icon with Android Auto, Apple CarPlay. You have a ton of different settings you're able to adjust. And then the camera system, this one specifically, just has the rear view with your sensors. So I do like this screen a lot. I think it's very intuitive. It looks great. The gauge cluster is fully digital, and you have the controls on this side, and you can configure quite a lot. So basically everything you're used to seeing in other Fords, you will have that can pop up. You can have a few gauges and things like that. Hitting the menu icon, we have a few more items that are all gonna pop up. And then there are drive modes located down here. We do have a rear locking differential, which is a good touch, but then there's drive modes as well. You can easily cycle through. So I think overall the interior does look good on this new Ford Ranger. I like the air vents. They have a cool design to them. You have some texture on that as well. Really can't complain. It's not crazy fancy. However, sub 40 grand, that's pretty affordable. There's wireless phone charging, a little bit of storage. I like this, a great spot to put your cell phone in the upright position. Maybe if you're not connected to the Bluetooth or something, you can use that as nav. Storage here, kind of tiny storage here once again, which is a little interesting. However, there's also more storage under here. And then of course, we have a good sized glove box. Armrest as well, opens nicely. A lot of space in here. So not bad, nice interior. Sunglass holder up on top, dome lights, and your mirror. And just a decent layout. Now this Nissan Frontier is about as high as you can go, around $47,000. This one is the Pro 4X with almost all the options. This one does have the fabric interior. You're gonna see the contrast stitching and some orange accents throughout it. On the door panel, you get this vinyl material, and then more of this rubber material for the armrest with some padding. Of course, grab handle, basic controls, a little bit of storage. This does also have power controls for the seats. Cool contours, nice stitching and everything throughout these seats, and then more of the orange color for that steering wheel. If we hop in, we do have the push button ignition. Firing it up, we have our center screen and a more analog gauge cluster. So you can see some designs in the center gauge as well, so it's nice to see a combination. You can scroll through the center, see pitch and roll, off-road settings, different gauges. So while this isn't a full LCD display like the competition, honestly, you kind of get everything you need, still with the simplicity of the analog gauges. Steering wheel has all your basic controls over on the left side, cruise control on the right. We do have a tow and haul mode, few icons down below. We have a downhill assist control, kind of a basic looking dashboard, a little bit of storage, and then more of this vinyl material. I will say, while this was the new one on the block back a couple years ago, Frontier kind of looks a little more basic than the competition we're comparing this truck to right now. You have technically at this point the older version of Nissan screen, so nothing all too fancy. Again, it gets the job done, really nothing too crazy there. Taking a look at the backup camera, it's got pretty good design, top-down view as well. Of course, you will have that parking sensors and forward-facing camera when needed. So the screen is on the basic sides. However, we do have what you need, navigation, shortcuts all down below. And then I like how you're gonna see the physical controls very easily. You can adjust your dual zone temperature, fan speed, all the different zones. And then four-wheel drive is an easy selector. We do have heated seats and steering wheel, storage down below, cup holders, wireless phone charging, and then this cool rugged vinyl material with storage. So it is definitely on the basic side on the interior. However, some people probably like this over the new fancier trucks. Got a pretty simple black headliner and then just more sunglass holders and a small basic mirror. Now, as far as the functionality of the 2024 Ford Ranger, here is just a look at the rear seats. So one thing nice, you can pull this lever and pull these up, lock them into place, and you do have hidden storage space all underneath. You have these two plastic lined buckets, which are gonna be pretty useful. Then just pull that, get it back down, and then we have a strap over here. We can unlock and pop these forwards. They will fall down with the headrest out of the way, but you're gonna have a carpet lined area and then all carpeting back here with a little bit of storage. Sitting now in the back seat with the Ford Ranger. So I'm 5'11". I have a good amount of headroom, as you can tell, and with the driver's seat at my height, I have good knee room and good leg room. Now, there are no air vents in the back of this truck, unfortunately. We do get a little bit of storage, plugs down below with 2 different USBs, and then good armrests on the left and right side. You can pull this center seat down, and you have armrests along with your 2 cup holders. So it's actually not a bad back seat. It doesn't feel cramped. You know, it's a little straight up feeling, but this is actually something you can do with. So not too bad. There are dome lights up here. You're gonna have your grab handles. Of course, they look at all the glass surrounding you. So overall, aside from lack of air vents, this is a pretty comfortable back seat. Taking a look at the back seat space, these doors do feel a little bit smaller than the other trucks in this segment. You have the same cool vinyl material. I like the rugged texture actually. And then the same stitching. The seats, once again, they actually do look a little bit smaller. These bases feel kind of short just by looking at them. You can lift this recline lever up a little bit and then pull this, and you are gonna see some hidden storage. So you have these cubbies on both sides of the seats for extra storage, which is a good touch. Then the seats themselves, you can pull that, and these will fold down flat, of course, once the headrests are out of the way. This, you kind of have an unfinished back versus the nicer fabric that the other trucks are gonna have. Nonetheless, you can still use this for cargo, and then you just have a little bit of storage back there. So not all too bad. You do get some good extra storage, manual sliding rear glass as well. And then once again, nobody likes to put air vents in these trucks, but you have the plugs and then just a little bit extra storage behind that seat. So now sitting into the back seat of the Nissan Frontier at 5'11", I do have good headroom, and with the driver's seat at my height, plenty of knee room and foot room. The biggest downfall, these seat backs are straight up in the air, and these seat bases are very short, like I already mentioned. Honestly, this is probably the worst back seat of the competition. Tacoma's better, Ranger's better, the trucks from GM are better. This is a very tight back seat. You do actually get at least a little thing right here you can pop down and get your armrests as well as cup holders, which is a good touch over some in this segment, but these seat backs make it significantly uncomfortable. So unfortunately, I think the Nissan Frontier's back seat are the worst in this class, mainly because you are so straight up. This is very uncomfortable. You do have the grab handles up here, dome light in the back. I mean, it fits people. I like that there is good legroom and good cargo area, but the backrests are definitely the shortcoming for the backseat of this truck. You got a lot of good power out of that smaller 2.3 liter. I mean, really peppy, right up to 50 miles an hour without even thinking. As far as ride quality, visibility, things like that, you can tell this is not a giant truck. It's no F-150, so it feels really nicely shrinked around you. It's an easy truck to drive. Visibility is all about what you would expect. No complaints there. You can easily see out. The interior, of course, this isn't like the highest trim level or anything. It's nice. It's fine. I wouldn't say it's above and beyond, but of course, a Raptor or a nicely spec'd Lariat, of course, is going to be nicer. So this one, for being on the more affordable side, under that $40,000 mark, it does feel pretty cool. I like the screen. I think it's cool how it's integrated. It feels like a mini version of what you've seen in other Fords, to where the vertical screen is cool. It's a little bit different than what we're used to seeing, especially on the Tacoma, but I like how everything's integrated nicely into this center bezel. It just fits really flush and clean to the dashboard. I like that aspect to it. The 10-speed, I don't really notice a transmission. It's super smooth. It's just kind of driving like normal, basically exactly what you would expect. So not bad. Armrests are in a good place. The fact that this has power seats with the fabric is a nice touch. So setting off in the 2024 Nissan Frontier. So certainly one of the biggest things that is going to set this apart, it only comes with one engine, and its only engine is old school, a basic naturally aspirated V6. Obviously there are 4 cylinders now and twin turbo V6s in the others, and hybrids. This is now old school. You don't see them like this anymore. One thing you're going to notice, the steering is incredibly heavy. I kind of don't like that. You know, we've had these as press cars. Off-roading, it's a little cumbersome, honestly, to do the steering. Once you're up and moving, it does feel nice and direct and very mechanical. So if you like the old school feeling of trucks, this is the new old school one. It is basic and simple. While this is the new Frontier, which came out a couple years ago, it is now definitely older than the newest trucks. So you can already tell this is already starting to show its age, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. You know, a lot of people complain about the new 4 cylinders, the new turbo stuff, all this new fancier stuff. Not everybody likes it. So the Frontier is your best option if you like the old school simple stuff. Using the interior, it is incredibly easy, basic. The graphics are fine. You know, a lot of trucks nowadays sell themselves on the nicest, coolest screens in the world. Not everybody wants that. So when you're driving in the Frontier, it drives like a truck, which is nice. It feels solid. You hit bumps and it kind of feels like a tank, honestly, hitting things. You really do feel like you can just plow through anything. Hitting that bump right there just felt like nothing. So I like how this really does feel solid. The build quality is really good. Nothing about this feels like cheap and all plasticky, which is a good sign. So accelerating, all right, after driving all the turbo cars, this definitely feels sluggish. And now we've had press cars where we've floored it. It is not the same. The turbo 4-cylinders, whether some of you don't like them or not, they are way quicker, way more peppy, lighter on their toes. This thing feels kind of like a dog. You step on it a little bit, and I'm not trying to redline it crazy being a brand new engine or anything, but you gotta wait. You know, modern cars, you don't have to wait for acceleration. With a turbo, you pin the gas, that boost just kicks in. So this car, you gotta let it downshift, you gotta let it do its thing, get to the high revs to get the power. So again, it's old school, it's not fast, the transmission is smooth, and I wouldn't say it's like crazy slow like some of the older ones, like an older Tacoma or something like that. But, you know, it's fine, just certainly not as peppy as the turbos, especially if you get like the Ford with the EcoBoost V6. That's gonna be insane to drive one of those. But overall driving, like I said, it feels solid, it feels nice. Comfort isn't bad for the driver. I wish I could make the seat angle a little bit more. So, yeah, kind of generic. You know, we took one of these on a long trip actually. I think the lumbar support could be improved because I know my back got a little sore after a couple hours. You do have a good view around everything, so it's a easy car to see around and see out of. Mirrors all do a pretty good job. Turning circle's nice. Camera is definitely tiny compared to the other ones with all those fancier, bigger screens. And that steering is very heavy doing that. It's just a little bit more cumbersome. So after driving in the 2024 Nissan Frontier back-to-back with the 2024 all-new Ford Ranger, my overall thoughts. Styling, I think they both are kind of subtle on the exterior, not all too crazy looking. They both look very similar. The interiors, I think both trucks kind of both have that aspect of they're a little on the plain side, a little simple. I love Ford's screen, the instrument cluster, and the infotainment. They look fantastic. The Nissan is incredibly basic, which some people like that over the newest stuff. I think this truck feels a little bit more solid than the Ford Ranger. It just drives like you can just take some bumps, and this thing feels a little bit more weighted, I would say. Steering on the Nissan Frontier is incredibly heavy, a little bit weird to get used to. I think the Ford's, while it is a better weight, the Ford's is a little bit more vague feeling. This is more direct, it just is very, very heavy. Ford also does give you better back seats, much more room. These back seats are very cramped, definitely not the best ones out there. As far as capacities, you know, the Ford can tow a lot, but this V6, there's something to say about an old school V6. So reliability might be a little bit better on this older school Nissan Frontier. I do think the Ranger and the Frontier are very, very comparable. They both feel like they are the direct competitors. While there's the Tacoma, the trucks from General Motors, I think those two might be a little bit nicer, and then these two are more on the bottom end. Not necessarily a bad thing. Keep in mind the pricing of the Frontier and the Ranger are much more affordable. There are really good options. This is fully loaded for under $50,000, so that says a lot. So I think you get a lot for the money for the Ranger or the Frontier. You're just gonna sacrifice having a little bit more basic truck and a little bit more cramped areas in some regard. As far as the power goes, this is fine. That Ranger is really peppy, and you can get the EcoBoost V6 or the Raptor, which is gonna have an even more powerful one. So there's a lot going for both trucks. This is simplicity, and you can still get loaded up without breaking the bank. So comment below, what do you guys like better, the all-new Ford Ranger or the semi-all-new Nissan Frontier? I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. Those are my thoughts. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you all in the next video.